What's shaking, everybody? Welcome to a Monday edition of House Divided. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. A lot of stuff to get into today. As you come in to the Specs chat, do us a solid. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, do all of those things that we ask you to do on a daily basis. You can always hit the like button. If you've already subscribed, don't worry about it. Get notifications, though. It's kind of a big deal. Chad, a lot of Longhorn stuff over the weekend. We're not going to be able to get all of it squeezed into an hour-plus show, but that's okay because it's a new lineup starting today at Orange Bloods Live. You and I will be doing House Divided now, but like in a few hours, we'll also be doing the recruiting hour at 4 o'clock Central before the return of the modcast tomorrow in the same time slot. So a lot of the things that we don't get to today, we will get to in a few hours during the recruiting hour. We've kind of decided to focus on some specific things now, and we'll hit the rest of them at 4 o'clock. We should acknowledge before we jump into Isaiah Bond, Alabama, Washington, Arizona, Michigan, and then whatever the hell happens if Michigan becomes open, and just how the Longhorns have seized the moment regarding all of that. You can take that down, Blake. Let's just take 30 seconds to rue the day that you and I became Dallas Cowboy fans.
Yes.
I wasn't shocked yesterday. The win got taken out of my sails, but at one point, I can't remember if it was my mom or my wife asked me how much I yelled during the game. I think once. The Dallas Cowboys are who we thought they were, and, I don't really feel like talking about it a lot today.
Yeah, I know that you don't, because in our pre-meeting you said 60 seconds, and here live you just said 30 seconds. So I don't know that a lot of Cowboy fans want to talk about it. Unfortunately for us, we do have to kind of process it a little bit. As you can see in the Hall of Helmets, the Cowboys are facing the wall.
They don't get to turn around for a while.
They don't turn for a while. And the Packers are down in divisional land. Congrats to them. Congrats to Dan Campbell and the Lions. And we know who the winner tonight will face. So, yeah, it was, there of the circus of times, and they've given us all kinds of different versions of it. I wasn't prepared for that version, but Ketch, I would like to say a special thanks to my mother, since you mentioned your mother asking about your feelings, because that's what moms do. Moms are checking in on you, right? I just want to thank my mother for being present yesterday, because she kept me from saying a lot of the words out loud that I would have said. I was able to process it a little better. I had family around me, and we were just able to laugh to keep from crying. And by the time it was 48-16 or whatever the hell it became, I had a little alcohol in me, and I was able just to long process it. So just thanks to my mother for being around, so I didn't have to invent new curse words. But outside of that, man, it's going to take a while. Going to take a while to fully process what the hell that was.
Thank God for Longhorn football, because I worked all day yesterday chasing down, names and people, and I was interviewing Silas Bolden, the wide receiver from Oregon State, in the middle of the game. And I stayed distracted enough that it was probably for the overall good that I did so.
Yeah. Well, no, you have to find the distractions. And what will lead us back to Texas, Catch, I think is key. Because if you're a double circus fan, then you have good stuff to deal with on one side. The double circus people are Longhorn people and Cowboy people. So if that's you, we're going to get to all that good stuff for you. Now, if you're one of my brothers and sisters out there and you are a Cowboy Aggie fan, Catch, I'm going to tell you what I had to do this weekend. I had to get pumped about a tight end from Fresno State. Let me tell you what.
Weren't you able to revel in beating Kentucky in basketball?
That's true. Basketball, right? Basketball getting that win. That was nice. That is nice. And then you really get into this tight end from Fresno State. Let's dig in. Let's dig into all that portal stuff. There's mild, decent news there for A&M football fans. Cowboys doing what they're doing is the whole other side. But yeah, if you're a Longhorn fan, we're about to get to all the good stuff, because there is plenty of good stuff there as the offseason rolls on.
Well, there was almost more stuff this weekend on the Texas side of things than anyone could reasonably keep up with. Isaiah Bond uh, is a Longhorn. That took even less time than I thought it would. I thought Monday would be Isaiah Bond Day, that he'd finish his visit, there would be an announcement, and that bad boy hit before noon yesterday. Like, I don't even want to tell you what I was doing when I found out about it, but the 5 seconds I turned my head, Isaiah Bond became a Longhorn.
Yeah.
Ikeena returns to the 40 acres in an off-field role. Texas still looking for a defensive line coach. Texas bringing in Oregon State wide receiver Silas Bolden and Alabama linebacker Kendrick Blackshire this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a lot of stuff. I feel like I'm forgetting stuff. Oh, by the way, Steve Sarkisian got his extension. Oh, by the way, Jahdae Barron announced on Saturday night that he's returning for a senior season.
Yeah, those two, right? Those two, to me, if I'm a Longhorn fan, I'd start there. The details there. Sark, 4-year extension, no crazy embarrassing money, obviously no guaranteed word. And here's how I'd make a Texas fan feel good about it, Catch. Supposed to be around $10 million a year. And guess what? When the extension is over, the Aggies still have to pay Jimbo for 1 more year. Like, that's true.
I hadn't even thought of that, but okay.
Not even a joke. When the Aggies extended for 4 more years, all guaranteed, they went through 2031. So Sark will be done with this extension in 2030. The Aggies will still have 1 more batch of, what is it, $20 million or whatever they have to pay Jimbo per year, 7 point whatever. Yeah, so that gives kind of that perspective. And then on Jahdae Barron, I thought that was interesting. Did I see correctly? Jahdae Barron not only says he's coming back, but he's been bestowed the 7. He's been given the 7 by Michael Huff.
I didn't pay attention to that. If he's got a new number, that was I know you're a uniform geek guy. It may have happened.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, like, Barron got his headline. He got his post. We kind of anticipated that was going to happen. I mean, I had sources. It felt like about a week ago today that I started having sources tell me we're above the 50% mark with Barron coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That I hadn't asked a lot about it because it had been kind of iffy. And it was like, all right, well, when there's something to let me know. There was a point last week where I didn't get a number because I think I've terrified everybody. Actually, I did get a number. I just didn't report it. The number I got was 70. Oh. But God forbid you put a number out and it goes wrong and then it sticks to you forever. So what I reported was that I had heard a number higher than 50, but less than 85%. And somewhere in the middle there. But yeah, once I heard that, it was like, oh, and once I heard it from the person that I heard it from, 70 felt like 100. So there wasn't a lot of surprise to Barron coming back. It's a big return, though. It's probably the least talked about thing that's happened this weekend because fans love shiny new things, and Isaiah Bond is a shiny new thing to totally get excited about. It's absolutely justified. But when you think about the Texas secondary, the return of Barron and being able to play him at the star position means that you're going to be able to put Makuba, I think, at his best position, which is safety. And although they're still looking for DB upgrades, and there's been a lot of conversation about Jabbar Muhammad, and we'll certainly get into that today, the cornerback from Washington who did a number on the Texas receivers in the Sugar Bowl, I think that the return of Barron is a real stabilizing force in the secondary. Even if they don't add another starting level player to the group, you can see the makings of a younger, improved, I think a little more dynamic secondary, and Barron's a big piece of that. So a lot of things to talk about. Isaiah Bond is the biggest. And there's a conversation that you and I are going to have about what I think once we get beyond just what Bond means in the Texas program. There's a fascinating conversation about where he came from and how it happened and how there are sliding glass doors that are staying open for 30 days all over the country right now, and teams are shopping now. Texas aggressively shopping in some cases, and I don't think we're done. But before we do that, let's address Isaiah Bond. I told Anwar earlier today, Chad, I don't know. I'm not saying that Bond is better than Xavier Worthy or Adonai Mitchell, although I think Bond's got a chance to be a first-round draft pick level wide receiver. When you run 10-4, it helps. He's very, very fast. But I do think if there was a prize pick deal for his season, I think he's got a chance to be like a 1,200-yard, 70 or 80 catch receiver, and where there was so much balance among the top two guys in last year's receiving game. I don't know that quite the same thing exists today. And I look at Bond as a bit of a mixture of Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. He can do where those guys specialized, I think, in certain kinds of routes. He's a guy that does a little bit of everything. He's going to get, you would think, the best version of Quinn Ewers that we've seen. And I just think Isaiah Bond has an opportunity to really have the season I think we thought Xavier Worthy might have. Worthy ends up being a 1,000-yard receiver, but he doesn't have the big pile of touchdowns. Mitchell had those. So I think it's an incredibly important pickup. I think it potentially transforms the entire offense. And as of this very moment, I think he's poised to potentially have a pretty spectacular last season of college football.
To me, Catch, there's a substance to Isaiah Bond that I think Texas fans are really going to enjoy. There are times where there's flash to him. Like you said, the speed is there. He's involved in one of the most famous plays now this last college football season with the catch against Auburn. But I'm looking at his season stats right now, and Middle Tennessee, decent game, 5 catches. Then the next few games, he had 1 catch. He only had 1 against Texas, 4 against South Florida, a couple games where he only has 1 catch. I keep going back to College Station because sadly for any Aggie fan out there, that's the day they all kind of found it at Alabama. He had 7 catches for 96 and a touch in College Station. In other big games, 5 against LSU, 3 big catches for a 26-yard average against Tennessee, 5 in the Auburn game. So it wasn't just that one play, 5 catches. That was the longest of them, but 5 with a 15-yard average and a touchdown, 5 against Georgia in that big win with a 16-yard average, and then did have 4 catches in the loss to Michigan. So this just solid's not the right. Sometimes I'll use the word solid and people think I mean it as an insult. I don't usually mean the word solid as an insult. I mean that as dependable. You're going to be there. You're going to give me something. If I'm a Texas fan, I'm thrilled about that. Isaiah Bond has always felt like a guy to me that is going to give you production. You can count on him, and his numbers this year would tell you that. He's got some good production spread through the year.
Well, and I think, the elephant in the room, look, when we talked to Kyle Henderson Wednesday, we asked him about Isaiah Bolden right before he actually went into the portal. I was like, okay, well, now that it's over with and he can't go into the portal, let's talk about what would it have meant if Isaiah Bond had gone into the portal. And I think he spoke of, look, Bond was probably a little bit of a frustrated guy last year because Jalen Milroe has got some circa 2003, 2004 Vince Young going on. He's incredibly dynamic. He scares the hell out of you with his feet. But remember when Roy Williams was a senior and Vince Young was a redshirt freshman, and none of those receivers were happy that Chris Sims was gone? Chance Mock was the guy that was better able to get the ball to those guys so that they could get their numbers. And in the moment Vince takes over, it just becomes a little more complicated because he's such a work in progress as a passer that it does affect the passing game numbers. I think if Isaiah Bond plays for Texas last year, you take one of either Worthy or Mitchell out of the equation, I think he's like a 1,000-yard receiver. I think it's impressive that he ends up 640 yards in terms of receiving yards, doing that in an offense not tailor-made for him. I mean, what does he say in why he picked Texas, because they've got a guy that will hang in the pocket, who's an NFL pro-style guy who can distribute the football. And he didn't have that a year ago. And yeah, I'm sure as a wide receiver, he was frustrated to come out of games with 3 catches or 4 catches when in another offense with another quarterback, you're maybe doubling those numbers on a game-by-game basis. He's not going to have that issue at Texas. They have been looking for what they believe was a true wide receiver 1 option in this offense. And as much as they like Matthew Golden, I think they kind of viewed him as a potential number 2 in this offense. And they've got Jonte Cook, and maybe Cook develops into a number 1 type option during his second season, but they wanted a guarantee on the box. And I think they feel like Bond is an absolute guarantee on the box. They held out on other receivers, the Juice Wellses of the world. God, I am never going to remember the kid from Purdue that signed with Oklahoma. I just can never remember his name.
Is his name like Burke?
Drake Burks? I'm telling you, there's something about that kid that I can never remember his name.
I think there's a Burke or Burks involved.
Somebody put it in the chat and remind me. I don't want to have to look it up. But they looked at those 2 guys and they were like, they're good. They're good. Nobody was disputing that they were good players, but Texas didn't quite feel like that was the wide receiver 1. Deion Burks. Thank you very much, Christopher.
There it is.
I got late in the portal window process. You started to hear a few names. Bond was one of them. And it was very risky, but Steve Sarkisian was like, I'm either going to go big or I'm going to go home empty-handed. And he waited and he waited and he waited for one of these big dog wide receivers that he thought fit the profile of what they truly coveted to go into the window. And then it didn't happen. And then it's like, okay, well, Silas Bolden from Oregon State's going to come in. But then we started talking about these guys might not necessarily be starters, but they'll be depth guys. And then Nick Saban didn't get fired. I said that yesterday on accident. He retired. They rhyme, guys. They rhyme. Somebody actually PM'd me yesterday. It was like, Nick Saban didn't get fired. I know that Nick didn't get fired. It came out. And I did correct myself immediately. But thanks for correcting me, guys. He leaves, and suddenly the portal door that slams shut, including the one that says, if you're an SEC player and you want to transfer, you better do it by this date, or you're not going to be able to play SEC football in 2024. Guys, it's the thing to remember with Arch Manning. If anybody brings up Arch Manning as he's unhappy, he's thinking about transferring, he doesn't want to sit behind Quinn Ewers. Well, Arch Manning is an SEC guy. Whatever happens with Arch over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, it's going to happen in the SEC. That door shut. It can only open for Arch if Steve Sarkisian leaves. Otherwise, it's shut. So he's going to stay at Texas this season. And everybody at Alabama was shut in the same fashion until Saban left. And I'm amazed. How ready was Steve Sarkisian for this, Chad? The moment it was announced that Isaiah Bond was in the portal, Sarkisian got on a plane and flew to Georgia and met with him immediately.
Yep.
And said, you're my guy.
Yeah.
And this is what we'll do. And here's the quarterback that we have. And here are all the NFL guys that I've produced. Come to me, baby. Yeah. And Isaiah Bond said, sure, I'll go visit Austin this weekend. And then the moment he hopped on a plane to come to Austin, I think it was over with then. And he's committed to Texas. But the thing that I can't help continue to think about is that Alabama still has now a portal window for all of its players. It's still open for another 26 days, 27, 25 days. Washington has the same thing. Arizona's head coach just took the Washington job. So suddenly that roster is available, and there's just a trickle down effect that every time someone takes a job, someone else has to replace the old job, and there's just a constant reopening of the portal that may continue if Jim Harbaugh. That's to me the most interesting thing in college football right now is we see what's happening to Alabama, we see what's happening to Washington. They got gutted over the weekend,
right?
And I think it's going to happen to Arizona if Harbaugh takes an NFL job. Suddenly, the entire Michigan roster will be open for recruiting. And then whoever replaces Harbaugh at Michigan, his roster will be open for rating through the portal. And look, some schools are more willing and able to do this. I think Texas has proven right away. If you think about it, Isaiah Bond, done. Kendrick Blackshire visited this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Tight end from Alabama that entered the portal yesterday. Texas had already talked to him too. You look at Washington, a lot of their guys went pro. Their best player that did enter the portal, Jabbar Muhammad, Texas was in home with him on Saturday night. Then you look at this Arizona roster that's about to become open for free agency, and you've got a co-defensive coordinator and linebacker coach in Texas at Johnny Nansen, who, oh, by the way, might be interviewed for the Arizona head coaching job when it's all said and done. But if he doesn't get that job, he's got players from his defense a year ago at Arizona that I think the Longhorns will absolutely have an eye on. I'm talking about a defensive lineman. I'm talking about a first-team all Pac-12 linebacker. And should Michigan become available, open because Harbaugh leaves, if you were to ask me right now, I don't even know who in the hell the players would be that Sarkisian would be interested in. We know the positions, I think. But I have no doubt in my mind that Texas will be aggressive and that whatever happens in 2024 on the field for the Longhorns, Chad, it's possible that this second wave of the portal, I don't even know what to call it. It's a special portal. It's not the normal portal. It's special. That this special second set of portal windows, not the spring, this out of the blue post portal. I think we may look back in September and October without even knowing everything that's done yet. And we may say that whatever Texas does in 2024 might not have been possible without this string of dominoes that has fallen. And if they get nothing other than Isaiah Bond, and I think there will be more, but if they do nothing other than get Isaiah Bond, I think they've completely transformed their passing attack.
Yeah, I think you said the right word. To me, that's how I think of it. It's portal dominoes and it's coaching dominoes. Every year we talk about some people say coaching carousel or whatever, but one thing affects another. For all those people that have been bitching for years about, well, how come these coaches get to move on and the kids are trapped? Guess what? Kids aren't trapped anymore. And it's a double, it happens at the same time. Imagine two of those big domino layouts going in different directions, and Saban starts one on the coaching side, but then each individual school, if you want to think about it in the Hall of Helmets catch, it's like this. Washington's just went like that, and Alabama's went like that, but Texas's stays like that, as in closed up. Can't do it. Can't go after Georgia. You can't go after those. Michigan, by the way, is up at the top of the Hall of Helmets because they're the champions. Theirs may be about to open, and as you mentioned, that now ends up, and you also, I don't know how we're all going to keep up with, forget about keeping up with the coaches of this guy went and this guy's, we got to keep up with that. But like you just said, the Bama door opens on this day, which means it closes 30 days later. And then technically the Washington door is different. And then the Arizona door is different. So it's just like a series, a stair step of 30-day windows that open up. And it's wild. It helps determine a version of free agency, if you will, that some schools have, some schools obviously don't. And now for 30 days, this whole roster, not a whole roster, this for 30 days, those guys have a choice. And then when they decide to go in, then there becomes a bit of a free-for-all. A quick little example, Catch, the tight end I referenced earlier that came from Fresno State that's now at A&M. You know where his little stop-off was? Washington. He was going to go to Washington, but then Kalen DeBoer left. So he said, well, I don't want to go here now. So he ends up at A&M. I don't know if this is why, but A&M, the quarterback that played at the end of the year for A&M, he transferred from Fresno State. They had played together at Fresno State. Quarterback throws him a little love on social media. Maybe that's the connection. Maybe it's not. But there's just a little example of how something can start to happen. That one was starting to be a domino and starting to go in the portal, and then it turns because of all the coaching stuff. So it's a crazy world. We're going to be keeping up with it throughout this off season, but Texas is one of those teams that's just in an incredible position, and good on Sarkisian, like you said, for jumping on the Bond situation. How about also his luck, Catch? The familiarity he's got with Bama and the familiarity he's got with Washington. And the fact that he's got Kwiatkowski on the staff with him. The fact that
they not only scouted those players, they've game planned and spent a month looking at film, and they know that Washington roster. Now, Look, it's funny that we're talking about this. And Kevin, believe me, I see your super chat. We'll get to it in just a second. I just wanted to make this point. Just as an example of what we're talking about, literally in the last 2 minutes, Washington wide receiver Jeremy Bernard, you might have remembered him from the Sugar Bowl. He made some plays.
Yep.
He made some plays. He just entered the portal. And the thing is, if you're Sark and you met with your staff, you say, okay, guys, what do we want to get out of the portal? And you're like, a couple of wide receivers, a tight end, a couple of D linemen, a linebacker, a DB or two. Okay. Then the portal shuts. And it's like, what did we get? Well, we got a receiver. We got an edge player that we didn't even know we wanted or needed, but we got him. We didn't think we were going to go get a Trey Moore, but we got him.
Yep.
And then we get Andrew Makuba, right? And so it's like, oh, okay, well, we came in with a bigger laundry list than that. We still need a wide receiver. We still need a tight end. We still need those 2 defensive tackles. We still need a linebacker and still maybe need another DB. God, guys, we didn't fill all of our needs. What's left in the portal? It's like, well, coach, there's not a lot left in the portal. And you're like, okay, well, I guess we're going to be busy in the spring. That second portal window may be really big for us. And then out of nowhere, Alabama, Washington, Arizona, the dominoes start falling. And it's I don't know how to explain it other than think about an unexpectedly amazing thing to happens. And you're right. Texas probably in as good a shape or anybody, given that they played Alabama and Washington, the only 2 people that can say that, right? I guess other than Michigan, except right. Michigan, they may be losing their head coach and their roster. I don't think, look, next year, and it's like January 1st, and we'll say, well, the portal closes, right? It closes January 4th. But we know now, we have this lived experience that next year I will be anticipating, well, let's see what happens after the portal shuts in the way of jobs still opening up. It's a unique situation that the Alabama job opened up because, boy, the dominoes from there are really, he shook up time zones all over the place. Right. But if Michigan and Alabama both open up in the same year post-portal, and you're talking about 6 or 7 different programs at a minimum that probably are in this position of having to hold on to as much of their roster as humanly possible. Like I said, Washington has been gutted, just gutted. Alabama the thing is, if you're there's like a trickle of Alabama players who keep hitting the portal, except there's still 30 days. There's a defensive tackle on the Alabama roster right now that thinks, well, I'll be back. By the way, I'm hearing that I have a bad connection. I'll try.
How's your weather in the Woodlands right now? You all right?
Getting some ice.
Yeah. Okay.
Seeing a little bit. Can you hear me right now?
Ooh, I can hear you. I'm hearing you a little bit. Says your dad. Yeah, maybe duck out, come back in. Down to a 2 connection out of 10. We do hope everybody is safe and sound out there. It is cold around most of the state of Texas. Under 20 degrees where I am when I woke up today. Hopefully everybody is safe. Real quick, let me give McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning some love since we're talking about it. We have been nice and comfortable in the house because of McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. If your system is given out during this cold, or if you know you need a new system, or you just want to get it checked, McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning is a great way to do it. 518-0119 or coolmenow.com. $39 is that diagnostic fee to make sure your system's running right. They're not going to sell you something you don't need. They're not going to throw any hidden fees in there. They've been doing it since 1977, keeping everybody cold when they need to be cold, hot when they need to be hot. They're like the McDLT of heating and air conditioning. 1,500 4.8 star ratings on Google. So check them out. McCullough Heating and Air Conditioning. We do hope everybody is toasty today on this crazy January 15th. Hopefully it's not coming down too hard where you are. All right, Mr. Ketchum is back. That signal looks strong. As you were, Ketchum.
I think we can put probably a ribbon and bow on some of that. It's just that this is a new era. We're learning things every year in college football. Mm-hmm. And I think the examples of January, none of us were thinking about this. And I guess you couldn't see the Saban thing coming, but not one of us were saying, well, you know, all it's going to take is for one coaching job to open up. Right. And suddenly there will be rosters for everybody to go portal shopping. Yeah. And I think this example is going to have us there every year from now on. We're going to be saying, just wait for that one job to open up and then watch the dominoes.
Just think about the strangeness of this moment, Catch. It will not happen every year moving forward. We're talking about, and today the reports are that Jim Harbaugh is literally in LA talking to the Chargers. Is he going to talk to more NFL teams that need coaches? Maybe. But think of it, in the NFL, where in the pecking order do they need coaches? Middle to bottom. Right? When Black Monday hits every year, it's because it's the bottom feed. What we're talking about here is 3 of the 4 teams in the playoff. Imagine if 3 of the 4 teams that make the championship games in the NFL needed new head coaches like the next week. That's the trickle down kind of stuff. And if the NFL had a rule that said once that coach leaves, the entire roster could just leave. Like they could choose to go somewhere else. So that's where we're all trying to understand how all of this works. And if you are a Steve Sarkisian, this is ironic, Catch. Think about it. Nick Saban has admitted that he said that the new version of college football is not what drove him out. But what he has basically admitted to all of us is that the 72-year-old version of him wasn't quite ready to do it day in and day out like it needed to be done. So the Sarks of the world and the DeBoers of the world and the Dan Lannings of the world, they are ready to roll, ready to do it, and ready to take advantage of what's about to happen here. So it is fascinating to watch. So now we're to the DeBoer does his presser at Alabama. His job comes open. Jed Fish has now taken it. So now Arizona fans are like, well, Dan, we kind of like that guy. There's going to be a lot of that. So now it's Arizona's job is open. Who gets that interview? Arizona's headed to the Big 12 next year, of course. So their first year in the Big 12, Catch, they'll have a new coach. Washington's first year now in the Big 10, they got a new coach. Bama's first year in an expanded SEC, they've got a new coach.
And look, I can't stress it enough. Texas has already gone to Alabama and taken a player and has had another player visiting. And the good news for you, if you're Texas, is today is the 15th or the 16th. I think they've got 2 more weeks. Classes are just about to get started. So they actually have a window that's going to give them some buffer should they want to go get guys. I think they'll have until the end of the month to get some of these guys in school. What classes start tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken? I mean, we saw a lot of the Texas freshmen moving down this weekend. So there's like a last day that you have to be registered to get in by the spring semester. It sounds like Texas has got a little bit of wiggle room. They will be aggressive. I think the Arizona roster for me is where everybody needs to keep a close eye. The DC that just came to Texas, Johnny Nansen, to be the co-DC and the linebackers coach, he's kind of beloved by the Arizona roster. In fact, a lot of and I know I missed a super chat, so we'll go back to those in just a second. There was a hashtag hire Nansen that a lot of the Polynesian players were posting on Twitter last night, trying to get that thing to go viral. I don't know what Arizona is going to look for in a head coach. I've thrown out the name Tom Herman. I actually think that'd be a great hire for Arizona. He wins not at an elite level, but certainly, Arizona's only finished the season ranked twice in the last 25 years.
Wow.
Twice. So, they just want to be good. But their players, I got 2 names for you to keep an eye on, Chad.
Okay.
Defensive lineman, 6'6", 325-pound grad transfer by the name of Bill Norton. Started all season at Arizona, and Nansen loves him. In fact, 3 weeks ago, he was asked about Norton coming back for 2024, and Nansen said, he better come back. He doesn't have a choice. If that sounds like a guy that Johnny Nansen loves, when he's like, hell yeah, he's coming back, or I'm going to maim some people. I think he's a guy to keep an eye on. And then I think he's got a linebacker named Jacob Manu, first team All Pac-12, had 116 tackles, 6.5 sacks, 9.5 tackles for loss in 2023. And he's only a second-year player, which can be critical for Texas, because one of the things that we may be learning or not even being learning, we're being reminded of, is that transferring to Texas can be easier said than done a lot of times. And there's a sweet spot. Isaiah Bond, second-year player with great grades, easy to get in. Grad transfers, fairly easy to get in. Guys with 70, 80, 90, 100 hours, but they haven't quite graduated, they can only bring 60 hours into Texas, and it becomes very complicated at that point. Texas is not going to make exemptions for athletes and give them a Texas diploma after only having been on campus for a year. So it is a little tricky, but I think Texas is going to be very aggressive in the next week or two. I don't think they're done portal shopping. Kevin jumped into the super chat, Chad. Thank you, by the way, Kevin, for the $20. How much of the fallout do you think with freshman recruits wanting to decommit since we are getting portal players? And how does the culture look to the players when we are getting portal players to replace recruits?
It's a good modern question. This didn't used to be even a thought, but I understand the question. Absolutely.
I think the only issue that Texas has right now is that they lost Bo Davis, and that you can tell recruits as much as you want that never commit to a coach, commit to a program, because you never know. You can say all that stuff. It's cliche. We know how to finish those sentences. But in reality, these guys commit to people. They commit to assistant coaches a lot of the times, or they commit to head coaches, right? I mean, we're certainly seeing that right now. Isaiah Bond would tell you, I committed to play for Nick Saban. And if Nick Saban was at Alabama, I'd be at Alabama. But Nick Saban's not at Alabama, and I'm not at Alabama anymore.
Yeah.
We're seeing the Bo Davis impact in that it directly impacted the Jamari Caldwell recruitment, the Houston defensive tackle that was waiting to see, the thing is he felt like he needed to commit last week, and he couldn't commit to Texas with them not having a defensive line coach. You look at the freshmen, Alex January on his way, DeAndre Robinson from Florida. It's like, I don't know that I want to move 2,000 miles and not know who my position coach is. Now, I don't think the portal stuff right now, I mean, look, did Adonai Mitchell cause Texas to lose anybody that it wanted last year? Did Jalen Catalon showing up cause Texas to lose anybody that it wanted last year? Gavin Holmes. We can run through the list of guys that they brought in. Thus far, it really hasn't impacted Texas. Will it potentially impact them? Maybe. I think one thing to keep in mind, I had a source tell me last week, the date, Chad, that they were sweating was the SEC date, because all of the guys on the Texas roster want to play in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
If you announce now that you're in the portal or in the spring, I mean, you can do that, but you're not playing in 2024 in the SEC.
Right.
And so I think Texas feels pretty good that its roster is going to be fine, and that portal additions won't cause disruptions with the roster. But here's the thing that everybody needs to know. These players want to win. Quinn Ewers came through the portal. Nobody was like, yeah, but what about Hudson Card? And what about, Casey Thompson? No, it's about getting as much talent as you can on. It's not very different from the NFL. How much talent can you accumulate? And the best players aren't going to lose their jobs and are going to be happy that other great players or good players are with them. You may have some guys at the bottom of the depth chart who are like, crap, there's one more guy that's ahead of me. I just don't think Steve Sarkisian worries about the bottom of his depth chart. I think it's clear. He's got 5-star level receivers who are young guys, but unproven. He could just roll with it. He could just say, look, we've recruited these guys. We're just going to let them, grow up. He's like, fuck no. I've got a quarterback who's coming back for one big year. Am I going to have him come back to try to put himself into the top of the first round of the NFL and play with a bunch of unproven guys? Not if I can't help it. So he's gone out and improved the experience depth. He's made the team better. If that causes Texas to lose a player or two along the way, I don't think he's blinking at all. I think this is very much a bird in the hand is worth a bird in the bush. And if you get Isaiah Bond, one spectacular, because here's the other thing, he'll just go get another Isaiah Bond next year. Like, what does Sark care about young, unproven players who are struggling to reach the levels that he needs them to reach if every year he can go out and get an Adonai Mitchell, if he can go out and get an Isaiah Bond, if he can go out and get a Matthew Golden? They're literally turning receivers away. They could have had Juice Wells. They could have had Deion Burks. Yeah.
There it is. Well done. Good job. Well done. Good job, Catch. Good job, Catch. You got the receiver's name. That's good. Bird in the hands were two in the bush. But anyway, yeah, you're good. It's good.
Yeah, but in this case, it's just one.
So you changed it.
I changed it because you would think that adding a guy might cause you to lose a guy. But I don't think we're in a situation where it's like one guy shows up and two go out. I do know the expression. In this instance, I think it's 1 for 1 more than anything else. Gotcha. He's going to what Sarkisian is teaching us is that he may recruit. High school football recruiting is the lifeblood of the program. But if he can improve the program immediately with a megawatt talent, he's not going to turn them away. I think Trey Moore is the perfect example of that. They go out and get Colin Simmons, and that would be enough for a lot of people. But if the nation's leading sacker becomes available and it's from right down the street and he wants to come to Texas, if it means they lose somebody who's not otherwise playing, I mean, Sarkisian is telling us with his actions, he doesn't give a fuck. He doesn't.
Yeah. Well, and based on this thing we're talking about, if I'm understanding it right, and again, I'm starting to question whether or not there's actually portal rules, but theoretically, if I was a recruit at Texas or already on this roster, if they get somebody from the portal right now and I decide I'm pissed off and upset and I'm gone, I'm going to have to sit out, correct?
No, you'll have to sit out in the SEC, though.
I'm going to say I go right now. Oh, if I go right now, I just can't play for an SEC team.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you throw yourself into the portal, I mean, you'd have to wait till the spring to formally announce that you're in the portal, unless you're a grad transfer. If you're a grad transfer, you can do whatever you want to whenever you want to.
Grad transfers, whatever. But if I wanted to go somewhere, it'd have to be in the spring, and I could go to Wisconsin, but I couldn't go to Kentucky.
If you want to play in 2024. Gotcha.
Okay.
I'm telling you, my guys around the Texas football program, that was the deadline they were sweating. Because they would tell me every player on our roster knows that if they want to transfer to an SEC school in 2024 and play, they had to do it by, I forget the exact date. I want to say it was January 4th, but
Jan 4, I think, right? For the normal window.
Yeah. Otherwise, you got to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So what's made the Bama thing so interesting is that, this thing will go into February when it's all said and done with regards to how long players can stay in the portal. You might even have a situation where a guy in February announces that he's going to transfer and then just sits out the spring. I actually talked to the parent of a defensive tackle that may be an option for Texas in April. And I was like, well, what is he going to do? Is he just going to go through practice and kind of do what he otherwise would, and then when the portal opens, then go in? Or does he say, I'm not practicing this spring because I'm going to go to the portal and I don't want to risk injuries? It sounds like he's going to go through all of the spring workouts. And then when that window opens up, he's gone potentially to be a Longhorn when it's all said and done. So it'll be interesting. Look, you're right. The portal never stops. But for now, you're limited to what's in the portal and whatever the hell you can pry away from these other rosters. And I think these rosters are more inviting from a talent standpoint than what's left in the portal.
Man, it's incredible stuff. Kevin, thank you for that super chat. We have another one from Oscar. Hold your breath if you're a Cowboys fan. $4.99. I know we all saw what we saw with them boys yesterday, but don't lose sight of the trajectory of the Longhorn football program. Yes, Oscar. Yes, yes, yes. If you are a double circus fan, you walked out of one circus tent that was damn near on fire, and at the other circus tent, there were fireworks going off. There were dudes on unicycles. There were people eating cotton candy, and you thought, I'm going to go see what's happening over there. That's what I would tell you to do if you're a double circus fan today. Get to that Longhorn tent as fast as you can.
Chad, let me ask you this. Among all of the other things that happened, and I want to remind everybody, look, there's a big recruiting deep dive that we're going to do today at 4 o'clock. Chad and I have the recruiting show at 4 o'clock. We'll definitely dive into the players that were here this weekend. Jason Sukumel will join us at 4:20. We'll talk about Silas Bolden, the kid from Oregon State, who seems to be teasing that he's on the verge of becoming the next Texas wide receiver / maybe gadget guy. There's some thought that maybe I think he's overqualified to be the Keelan Robinson of next year. You're talking about a guy that had over 700 yards receiving this year at Oregon State.
Yeah.
He's going to come to Texas and be the 5 plays a game guy? I don't know. But he sure as hell loved his visit this weekend. Told both Jason and I, and me on direct messages and Jason on the phone, that Texas is the team to beat. And when I asked him, are you going to take other visits? He's like, that's what I'm trying to decide right now. So we'll dive into all of that in the 4 o'clock hour. I'm curious, with everything that's happened this weekend beyond Isaiah Bond, is there anything that you want to go to next before we get into buy or sell?
I think, let's see, but let me, I'm going to have you talk prime shrimp here in a second, and I'm going to think on it. because there probably are. Yeah. There's a couple things I think we maybe need to mention before we get there in terms of kind of Texas and how things are framed right now. So we'll do that. But first, let's go prime shrimp, because I know people when you get in the cold weather and things get a little crazy, you're always trying to figure out meals. Prime shrimp can definitely help them out.
I mean, look, it's about to freeze. It's like sleet in my area. What is it in Austin right now? Like 19 degrees or something like that?
About
It's
that.
cold.
Yep.
And nobody wants ice to come down, because then you can't leave the house. And if you do, you're risking getting in an accident and all that stuff. Prime shrimp is the gift that keeps on giving. Scan that QR code right now. Look, we might have like a couple of weeks of some freezing and some cold weather and stuff. So like, go ahead and get prepared for it. If you'd done it before, you'd already have meals for the week. You'd have been able to use that 30% off discount. And then it takes like 10 minutes to make the meals. So affordable, easy to make, and great taste. It's like the three things that we all want in our meal. Scan that QR code, go to the website, primeshrimp.com, use that promo code, 30% off when you use the promo code OrangeBloods30. They've got all of the different types of shrimp that you like, that you want, that you covet, that you need. And again, it's affordable. Buy 6 packs, get that 30% off. And I can't stress enough, I've got kids home today, maybe, who knows, maybe home tomorrow, later in the week. I don't know what the roads are going to be like. The one thing I know I have with prime shrimp are easy, ready-to-make meals that taste good, are cost-effective, and easy to make. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
All right, Ken. So before we get to buy or sell, I think a couple things, maybe if I'm a Texas fan, that I'd want to get into, because we've gotten into Isaiah Bond. We talked about Sark's extension all the way through 2030, about $10 million a year. If he's not the highest paid coach in America, he's going to be damn near the highest paid coach in America. That's what you want to hear if you're a Texas fan. What about let's go to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line coach. I see a lot of folks in the chat asking about that, different names flying around about who that could be. I saw a note from, I think it was our guy CB that mentioned it. Kalen DeBoer does his presser at Alabama. Do we know for sure that Freddie Roach is staying at Alabama? Has that been determined?
It looks like it, and I think that's a bit of a turnabout. I was hearing on Saturday from someone who lives, I think, on the same street as Freddie Roach, that the expectation was that Roach wasn't going to return. And then on Sunday, it looked like he is going to return. One of the things that DeBoer said in his press conference, that he only planned to bring 1 or 2 coaches from the previous staff onto the new staff. It looks like Roach is going to be one of those guys. I don't think he is a candidate. There had been, or at least an active candidate. I think Texas would look, he's just Alabama through and through. And now that it looks like he's got a place and a home, I think he's likely to stay. We had heard the name Ryan Nielsen on Saturday. Who the hell's Ryan Nielsen, you may be asking? He's the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons. Spent some time in New Orleans. In 2021, he turned down Brian Kelly to be the defensive coordinator for LSU.
Okay.
Coming from New Orleans. Now he's in Atlanta. Arthur Smith gets blown out. Jacksonville tried to get permission to interview Nielsen and was turned away. And Atlanta doesn't know if they're bringing back Nielsen or not, but they want to have the option if their new coach wants to keep Nielsen. So Nielsen's like hanging out there, no idea if he's even going to have a job this year, because he's kind of, at the whim of the team that currently owns his contract and isn't letting him do interviews. Well, look, Sarkisian flew to Atlanta to meet with Bond. I think maybe there was some 2 + 2 = 5. And then it was like, while he was there, he could have talked to Nielsen. And maybe Nielsen would come to Texas for a year, make $1 million, hold out until the jobs come. The thing is, though, Nielsen's like an NFL head coach in 2 or 3 years. The people in the league really like him, as evidenced by the fact that Jacksonville was trying to interview him for their vacant DC job. Ultimately, we were told yesterday that's not going to happen, that there are names out there, but he's probably not one of them. But that's where we are with the defensive line deal right now.
Okay.
That Sarkisian hasn't announced. This happened a year ago at wide receiver. I was like, why won't Sark now announce a wide receiver coach? There's portal and there's receivers on the roster and everybody's nervous. And in the end, Chris Jackson was still coaching in the NFL, and they waited until his season ended, and then he became announced as the wide receivers coach. I wouldn't be surprised if I'm not saying that this is definitely happening. What I'm saying is, if it was a college guy, they could have made an announcement this weekend. They could have made an announcement today. They've got, if they felt like, oh my God, we have to stop the bleeding, we can't let DeAndre Robinson walk. We got to announce this hire and stop the bleeding. They could have, in theory, done that already. When it hasn't happened, and we know out the moment Bo Davis left for LSU, Alex January, the Duncanville kid, and DeAndre Robinson both were on the fence. Now, they were able to talk January off the ledge. He's in Austin, moved in. He's squared away. They weren't able to do that with Robinson. In theory, they could have bang, 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 hired somebody, had them in place. That's not what's happened. I think I've got my eye on the NFL, but I will do a little bit of a shoulder shrug. I've looked at Freddie Roach. I've looked at Ed Orgeron. I've looked at the cat from Texas Tech. I've looked at a couple of NFL guys, and nothing has completely connected yet, which is basically me saying, I don't know. Look, there's some things I know, but when I don't know, I'm not going to pretend that I do. I don't know the name. I don't know exactly what he's going to do. What I do know is there seems to be real patience with making this hire. Nobody seems to be rushing into anything. When the same thing happened a year ago, is because Sark went to the NFL to get somebody. Given that half the damn teams in the NFL are practically playing in the playoffs this weekend, or at least a third plus of the teams, it stands to reason that somebody somewhere could be that guy. There's been conversation of, could it be Rod Wright, former Texas player? There's been conversation that it could be Frank Okam, former Texas player.
Now, real quick, let's flesh both of those out. Rod Wright is currently with the Texans as like a D-line assistant coach. Is that right? And then is Frank Okam with them as well?
Hold on. Let me look it up. Rod Wright
was with them this year.
He's an assistant. Rod Wright is an assistant defensive line coach with the Texans.
Right. So they're still dealing with a playoff run. Congrats to the Texans.
CJ I got to believe if it was Rod Wright, the Texans would let him go. But he's not you know what I mean? He's an assistant defensive line coach. That's not the same thing as being the defensive line coach. But
True.
maybe it's as easy as it is Roderick Wright, and he'll be the guy that comes along. When you look at Frank Okam, he is former defensive line coach he was the defensive line coach for the Raiders in 2022. He was a defensive line coach for the Carolina Panthers in 2021. He's the current defensive line coach for the Toledo Rockets.
Whoa. Oh, okay. All right. Back to college. All right. Got you. So he went from
pro. So if they wanted him, they could have him.
Okay. And I want, in addition to the obvious of they used to be Longhorns and Longhorn fans might like that connection, you think those two names are big enough to be the D-line coach at Texas?
No, because one of the things that when Bo Davis left, the immediate response was, well, we can use this as an opportunity to hire a badass recruiter. We have to start recruiting the defensive line better. You look at this defensive line roster right now, and had Bo Davis stayed, there's not one player that he's recruited in 3 years that's playing. They're all Herman guys.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the real things that, look, if Bo Davis had stuck around, I think he might have been under fire for the first time in his career, in the sense that his position is the one that everybody thinks needs improving the most. Well, why is that? Because Texas hasn't really recruited that position at the level they need to. And so much so that right now it looks like Vernon Broughton would be a starter if the season started today. Vernon Broughton hasn't been good enough to consistently put on the field so far. Really, Alfred Collins has had inconsistency issues as well. Who are those two guys, though? Tom Herman recruits. Even next year, it's possible that your top two internal guys would be Herman guys. So I think Bo Davis's lack of recruiting pop since he's been at Texas, the bill is due now. Murphy's gone. Sweat's gone. You're relying on Collins and Broughton in really big ways. Trill Carter left because I think he wanted a little more of a guarantee that he would be the guy. And I think Texas is being open with these guys and saying, we're probably going to bring in some guys from the portal. We want to improve what we have there. If they don't come away with somebody who's got some real bona fides as a recruiter, then I think it'll have been a little bit of a failure. From what it is they said they wanted, are they going to settle? Sark hasn't been a guy that has settled in his hires. Even his most recent hire, he took a guy from Arizona, successful defensive coordinator, about to be working in the Big Ten, I guess in the Big 12 because Arizona was going there, and got him to take a co-DC job and a position job when he was already a coordinator, though, and a successful one at another school. Sark has a stomach with a big appetite. His eyes are not bigger than his stomach so far. They've been equal. I would just be surprised if Texas comes out of this settling for somebody. So we wait. I wouldn't be concerned if I'm a Texas fan based on what Sark has proven that he can do from a hiring capacity. And I would also say this. If Robinson is gone, and it looks like he probably is, but January is going to stay, there are no other defensive tackles in the portal right now that Texas has a real eye on. So the urgency's kind of over now. If they need a week to flush this out or a day, anywhere from 24 hours to 150 hours, I don't think it's going to cost them anything. That roster can't transfer to another SEC school right now for this season, period.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they can't really transfer until the spring anyway. So the urgency, you could have argued that there was some urgency to get this thing filled by the weekend so that maybe you could talk DeAndre Robinson into still coming to Texas and enrolling and being here this week. I think he's gone. And I think he's telling us all softly, I'm probably going to stay closer to Florida, Florida State, something like that. Well, if that's going to happen, do you need – I think they can be patient here. I just don't think there's an urgency today to get this done like maybe some Texas fans feel like there might be. I just don't see it.
All right, buy or sell is coming up here in just a minute. Also, one more question for Catch. I think Texas Longhorn-wise, before we get there, reminder, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Blake, the super producer, where are we on Football with Friends at 2? We looking good? Yes. Football with Friends. Alex Dunlap is out there dealing with.
That's what I was wondering. Everybody was talking about his internet issues. It hadn't even dawned on me that Football with Friends could be in peril because of his internet connection.
Not only are we good to go, but I just got a headline: the return of DBU ? See y'all at 2 o'clock.
Okay. All right. There you go. That's good. 2 o'clock Football with Friends. 4 o'clock, the debut of the recruiting show with more from Catch and myself. That is coming up on Orange Bloods Live today. Like, subscribe, get your notifications. Also, a quick reminder about sinus and snoring specialists. This kind of weather always reminds me of why I love that I went to sinus and snoring specialists. It gets cold, it gets hot. It's wet, then it's dry. And that messes with your sinuses, your allergies, and all of it. There's your QR code. Do what I did back in 2017. Go see Dr. Slaughter at Sinus and Snoring Specialist. Find out what's going on with you and get to sleeping better. I did it. My wife did it. And now we are both sleeping as good as we have in our entire lives. So much more peaceful in the bed because I'm not hearing all that snoring over there anymore. But she feels so much better, and that's the key. Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Feel clear, rested, and healthy. And we hope everybody's doing well, whatever cold you're dealing with, whatever temperatures, whatever craziness you're dealing with the weather, because it is pretty wild this week. It's going to be really, really cold, depending on where you are. So thanks for being with us on Orange Bloods Live. New schedule hitting today, starting with Anwar and the Old Fashioned. And today, remember, Mondays, that Old Fashioned at 9 o'clock, that's your overreaction Monday, where Ketch jumps in with Anwar and starts your week off with that greatness at 9. And then we'll hit you with House Divided at 12, Football with Friends at 2, and then the recruiting show at 4. By the way, no Outsiders show tonight. Chance Mock's a big Bills fan, so he's going to be focused on that game. I'm a Bucks fan, so I'm going to be dealing with that tonight. And now that my Cowboys completely yacked on their feet, I've got to hope the Bucks can beat the Eagles. So, of course, the Eagles are going to win by 4 touchdowns tonight because that's what the football gods are doing to me right now. But that's a whole nother discussion. So, like, subscribe, get your notifications. Catch, before we get to buy or sell, just a quick comment if you want, or we'll move on. But if I'm a Texas fan, how excited would you tell me to be about this Dwayne Ikeena story that he's going to come in and be an analyst? How would you compare it to the Gary Patterson thing as a 1-to-1? Is it a little more than that, a little less than that? What would I need to know?
I think it's probably a little less than that. He's an analyst, which means he's going to work on game plans. He's going to work on player evaluations, self-scouting. He will be an important voice in the building, but he's not going to be an on-the-field coach. He's not going to be outside working drills with Malik Muhammad, giving him the Cedric Griffin and the Michael Huff development treatment. I think everybody should be excited because, like, one of the real legends, I think he should be in the Longhorn Hall of Honor. Like, I think he's a big deal in the history of Texas football. I think the Texas football program is better today with him being in it. But, like, if the DBs start playing really, really well next year, don't give him the credit necessarily. Like, don't do that thing that in 2022 when Kwiatkowski and the defense started playing better, it was like, well, this Gary Patterson did this. It's like, well, it's complicated. Like, yes, he probably helped, but he's not there on the field in games, and there's just a limit to what he actually can do. Be smart, be happy, but be smart about this. And he's going to be 68, I believe, in October. His days of being a position coach in college football are almost certainly over. Because do you know what you need your DB coaches to be able to do? Recruit nonstop on the road for like a month at a time. Look, man, when I'm 67 going on 68, I know what I don't want to be doing. And I got to believe that that's the place where Dwayne Ikeena is in as well. So, look, man, be super excited, but, like, do it with some reason and prepare yourself in advance for, like, I think the limited amount of credit you should be giving him should, things go well. We'll get to October. The Horns will be undefeated. The secondary will be playing better, and people will convince themselves that Dwayne Ikeena should be the DB coach instead of Terry Joseph, because Terry Joseph and Blake Gideon can't do a good job, and Dwayne Ikeena would be the secret sauce that made it all happen. Let's not do that. Now, before we go to buy or sell, Chad, a little bit of breaking news.
Okay.
And this dovetails nicely into what we've been talking about this hour.
All right.
Arizona has its first defection.
Okie doke.
And I don't think it's a guy that Texas will be after, but I do think he's symbolic of what is about to happen to the Arizona roster.
Okay.
Jonah Coleman, sophomore running back, who had over 1,000 yards of offense this year, averaged 6.8 yards per carry, was the number 5 rated running back according to Pro Football Focus. He's in the portal.
Wow. All right.
When we talk about the Arizona rosters now open for shopping, this is their first big departure. And when I tell you that I think Texas is going to have an interest in a couple of Arizona Wildcat players, it has begun.
Yeah. Yep. And like the connection's easy. You hope you hope that the guy you're just hiring as a linebacker co-DC, you hope that he is not going to end up going back to maybe interview for that job or, another job. But the knowledge he would have of that roster is incredible. Like just all these weird connections. Catch if you're from a Texas fan perspective, the idea that your head coach would end up with the connections of all these places in terms of prep,
It's wild.
knowledge of roster, start with Alabama, then go to Washington. Now we're at Arizona, and there's things in all layers.
It's like, well, we didn't play Arizona this year, but we just brought in their best coach, and he knows everything about that roster.
Right. Yeah. Intel's important. And oh, by the way, your roster just closed that door and these other rosters open up for 30 days.
And those guys have no reason to be loyal anymore. I mean, The reasons why they showed up are gone. And if they have opportunities, I mentioned, look, there's a couple of guys. I mentioned that defensive lineman. Mentioned
Norton.
When I mentioned, I forgot his name for a second, Bill Norton, and you think about the linebacker, Jacob Manu, and these guys, the chance to go play in the SEC, the chance to go play with a playoff team, the chance to make some money in NIL that is probably superior to what's available in Arizona. If the coaches can find themselves in a windfall, I got no issues with the players.
Right.
But Alabama, Washington, and Arizona, and potentially Michigan, Chad, and they could really find themselves gutted in a way that there's just not a real opportunity for them to replace what they're going to lose.
But also remember, Catch, we do have to keep it in mind. Keep the dominoes in mind, too. There's the non-domino side and there's the domino side. Keep in mind the idea that Kalen DeBoer is going to get a guy to go from Washington to Bama, just like Jed Fish might be able to get a guy to go from Arizona to Washington, because we've seen plenty of that over the years.
Well, have we?
Where you love the guy. You do love the guy, and I mean, that's the.
I think it's been very taboo for head coaches. It's different when it's an assistant coach.
Right.
Head coaches leaving and taking new jobs. It does happen some. I'm reminded of when Matt Brown took the job like 900 years ago at Texas, and he refused to go after recruits, refused to go after players on the roster because that's just out of bounds. There's probably no out of bounds. I just know this. The Arizona players seemed pretty pissed at their head coach yesterday.
Yeah.
The Washington players, I think one of the real issues there is that all of the players that could play at Alabama from Washington, 90% of them are headed to the NFL. Now, could you maybe get a Jabbar Muhammad to make that trip? Maybe. But I think it's, if you're Alabama, your shopping list is not a little bit unlike Texas. There may be a couple of guys on every roster that could help you, but there are no guarantees. It will be difficult. Their depth, I think, will be hit. Washington might. Do you know Washington doesn't have a scholarship quarterback on campus?
Is that right?
They don't have. If there was a spring game today, a running back would be just be playing. And look, the thing is, so when the Arizona guy gets to Washington, he's got limited options. I mean, I guess he could try to poach somebody from Arizona, or he can shop with what's available in the portal right now, but the portal has mostly been stripped. There's still some guys that are out there, but the big dogs have all been taken.
Yeah, no, that's true. I just, obviously Caleb Williams' name immediately comes to my mind, a guy that follows a head coach from one program to another, right, when he moves. So just something to keep an eye on. We'll see. And like you said, we'll see how much anger there is towards the guy, or we'll see how much connection there is, where once you calm him down, it's like, hey, if you want it to be about me and you and whatever, here's where I'm going. And
I think the next 3 weeks in college football are just going to be fascinating.
It's going to be nuts. And I'll keep saying it. Fan base after fan base after fan base are losing a coach they like over and over, because that's not the NFL version, Catch. The NFL coaches that are moving on are not loved right now. Atlanta fans are not flipping out like, oh my God, I love that guy. He took us to heights we've never seen before. But Bama fans, Washington fans, and Arizona fans, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, they dug their head coaches. They
Breaking
really
portal news. Can I get a portal combat real quick, Blake?
Whoa.
Before we go to buy or sell? We've got breaking portal news.
Round one, fight! Get over here! Finish him!
Oh God, I just saw it. I don't know if it was the first time he's run it that way, but how dare you, Blake, the super producer, how dare you put Walter Nolan in the Ole Miss uniform for the first time in Portal Combat? Sorry, Catch, go ahead.
Pete Thamel, senior writer for ESPN,
Yes.
reports that former Stanford tight end Ben Urasek, we've talked about him. He's been a guy that the Longhorns have kicked the tires on.
Okay.
Urasek tells ESPN that he visited Georgia this weekend, which we already knew, but he has a visit scheduled to Texas.
Ooh, nice.
He's the most talented and productive tight end in the portal. His 108 career receptions and 1,342 yards receiving during his career at Stanford as a tight end are numbers that rank inside the top 5 of all returning tight ends in college football. So the breaking news, it doesn't say when the visit is scheduled. I have to believe that would be this upcoming weekend or this week, sometime this week, I guess. But Longhorn fans have been waiting for the shoe to drop on Urasek. And all I've been able to say is, I know that the Longhorns like him. I know that they've kicked the tires on him, but I haven't heard that they put the pedal to the metal. All
right, there you go. Like you said, next few weeks going to be crazy. We're going to try to cover it all as much as we can when the worlds of the portal, recruiting, coaching moves, the dominoes, it all kind of ties together. And we'll try to keep up with all of it right here on House Divided. Thanks to almost 500 folks that have joined us in the Specs chat today. Remember, specsonline.com is a good day. Good day for specsonline.com and that Specs app, because they do have same-day delivery. They can get it delivered to you depending on your location. So check on them there. Be safe, obviously, in this cold weather, but some beverages might sound pretty good. Specs can help you with that. Catch, you ready for some buy or sell?
Let's do it.
All right, you first or second?
I'll let you go first today.
All right, let's do it. Buy or sell number one, Catch. UT 4 wide receiver set in 2024. Bond, Golden, Cook, and Wingo.
Buy. I think there are other guys, DeAndre Moore, Ryan Niblett. I mean, there are other players that could find themselves in that group. But, yeah, that sounds about right now. Keep in mind, Silas Bolden, the kid out of Oregon State, is another guy that's looking at Texas right now. So he could find himself there. It's rich people problems right now at Texas. How do you get all of our super talented wide receivers on the field?
All right, let's process those feelings. Buy or sell, Catch. Yesterday, for you as a Cowboys fan, third worst playoff loss of the post Super Bowl era. Blowing the 1 seed, then the Dez game in 2014, then yesterday.
What was your first one?
Blowing the 1 seed.
07. The Seattle loss was worse than this. The thing is, so I'm going to sell because I think it's actually further down the line. Gotcha. I thought the San Francisco loss last year was worse than this. I mean, we're ranking shitty moments in Cowboys history.
Right.
Never mind. I'm not even going to go with my turd in the toilet bowl metaphor.
I was going to say, you're going over the list of ugliest girls I ever dated, right? Like, it's just the weirdest. Who are the ugliest, meanest girls you've ever dated in your life?
So I'm going to sell. The thing is, I'm so stuck in my apathy I mean, I thought the bar should have been get to San Francisco. They've been so good at home. But you and I both knew, like, what happened yesterday was not maybe losing like that, because who could ever predict that? But they've been so good at home that you could make a case they should make the NFC Championship game. My God, what a step forward that would be after. I would have felt like Detroit fans last night if they made it that far. But in general, I was not surprised that they lost to Green Bay, and I mostly just swallowed it, man. I yelled once, like my voice went up a notch once. I can't even remember why. It might have been one of those wide-ass open receivers that Green Bay kept. It was like, what? But like other than that, one time I was pretty reserved and apathetic yesterday while watching.
Yeah. All right. We'll see if Catch's Wi-Fi hangs on for this one. Maybe it's because I had him talk Cowboys that his Wi-Fi got a little weaker. Let's see if we can strengthen it back up. Buy or sell, Catch. You are certain Philly will win tonight.
Buy. Yeah. Fairly certain. No, sell. I'm not certain. I don't know what the fuck's going on with Philadelphia. They've been a dumpster fire the last couple of weeks. Certain? I can't say I'm certain. I think they're going to win. I'd probably bet money on that happening, but certain, that may be a bridge too far.
Gotcha. Yeah. And by the way, thank you to the Lions for winning, because if I had to watch Philly host a playoff game after what happened to the Cowboys, oh my God. So thank you to the Lions for that. Buy or sell number 4, Catch. Mike McCarthy will be fired this week.
Buy. He's got 36 hours or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Close of business tomorrow.
I think so.
Gotcha. And finally, buy or sell number 5. Let's try to end positive for the circus folks. Starks off season so far. A+.
Sell. A. It'd have been an A+ if they had been able to get Jamari Caldwell.
Yeah. Or maybe keep Bo Davis. Right. Keep Bo Davis and get Caldwell. That combo. Or just
I'm not even the Bo Davis thing. You can't control that.
Right.
And they could come out ahead when this thing's all said and done. I always had some nitpicks with Bo Davis. The one thing that you certainly give him credit for is the development of the two guys that played this year, Murphy and Sweat. He deserves a lot of credit for that. I don't know that I ever thought Keandre Coburn or Moro Ajomo made massive jumps. So really good as a developer, but man, he just hasn't recruited well. Like this, what he's done as a recruiter wasn't good enough. So I do think they can do better than Bo Davis. And this isn't me piling on Bo Davis after the fact. These are things I've said about Bo Davis and the Texas defensive line position as a whole pretty consistently.
All right, halfway through buy or sell on this Monday edition of House Divided. What do you got, Catch?
Buy or sell number 1. You agree with me. Isaiah Bond has the makings and the look of a future 1,000-yard receiver for the Longhorns in 2024.
Yeah, I'll buy. I really like Isaiah Bond. It's one of those where I respect the hell out of, obviously, what Bama has built over these last few years when they really embraced the offensive side and they really focused in on bringing badass receivers to Tuscaloosa. And yeah, I dig it. I'm not shocked that that's where Milroe went when the desperation hit him on that gravedigger play, and Bond made the play for him. So yes, I think he can be that level of dude for Texas. I think fans should be thrilled with this.
Buy or sell number 2. The portal has proven to be, up until now, at least 300% more interesting than signing day was in December.
Yeah, it's a buy. It's a buy. I think it is. It's that combo of the signing day's always got it. You said it earlier. There's a foundational quality to that, but the craziness of the portal, that in the portal, out of the portal, somebody went here, now they're jumping back. They're in and they're back out. They're going to stay at that school.
I'm telling you.
All of those things. The guy I mentioned earlier, he's going to Washington because DeBoer's, wait a minute, DeBoer's leaving. Well, now he's coming to A&M. Like, wait, what just happened? Yeah, it's crazy. And recruiting at least feels a little more, it's weird I would say it, but a little more balanced than where the portal is right now. But yeah, so that's a buy.
The portal is wild. Buyer number 3, A&M athletic director Ron signed Ohio as their new AD. Buy or sell as an Aggie, no tears will be shed if AD.
Yeah, I think that's a buy. You broke up a little on the end there, but yes. No tears. I think, it's a buy, and it's weird. This will be another situation where a couple years down the line, the guy that hired the coach will not be there anymore, and that's not good. The leadership at A&M is a weird thing lately. I don't think there's going to be necessarily tears shed because sometimes I don't know. I don't know if Ross Bjork is the absolute best thing for A&M. I'll be honest, I don't know what that is sometimes. But, I don't know that Aggies will freak out that much if Bjork leaves. They've now watched it, 1 or 2 times at least these last few years.
Buy or sell number 4. You can hear me, right?
Now, I hear you now, yes.
Because I really want you to hear this one.
Okay.
Imagine you've been in a car accident. Your car is flipped over. You're in distress. You're in need of help. And you look out of your car window, and there stands the real life Hulk Hogan wearing an NWO t-shirt to help you. Buy or sell that you need beyond that.
Yeah, that's a buy. Great story. Because I know I'm getting saved, and I got saved by that story. That's fantastic. Did that happen to a real person?
Yes, RTMZ. I'm Hulk Hogan rescued a woman in a bad car accident, standing with her NWO t-shirt.
Wow, that is awesome. That is awesome. I hope everybody is hearing that. We're having the little bit of issue on catch, but yes, that's crazy. Hulk Hogan saves a woman on the side of the road, and he shows up in the NWO gear. That is crazy. That is crazy. All right, so Catch's video's frozen right now, and he's barely hanging on. It's hanging on. It's coming back. 4. There's a 4 out of 10. Come on, Woodlands Connection. Now we're at a 3 out of 10. All right. Uh-oh. What was that? What was that? We need to sign out. We're done? Wait, cool. Yeah, probably. All right. That may be it for today because that Woodlands Wi-Fi may be acting up a little bit. So that was almost all of buy or sell for today. But we hit a lot of stuff. Big weekend for Texas football. Good news, things being things being solidified with that Sark deal. Isaiah Bond transferring to Texas is huge in the portal, and just keep watching that portal because the Washington group, including Muhammad, is obviously now in the discussion. We'll continue to watch Muhammad at Washington and see if maybe that is an issue for Texas. Remember, coming up at 4:00 this afternoon, Catch and myself with the first recruiting show. You got Football with Friends coming up here at 2:00. Real quick, before we close it down, let me remind you about what I'm going to maybe be hitting at some point today, and that's a little Deep Eddy vodka. I talked about Specs earlier. You can do the Specs app. You can do specsonline.com. They've got all the flavors of Deep Eddy vodka, and once the weather gets better where you are, it may not be today, but at some point, when that sun shines again, that's a good image too. When that sun is shining again, head on out to the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. It is a good time. The barbecue is incredible at Crimson Creek Smokehouse. 8 different flavors of Deep Eddy Vodka. They'll make those great cocktails for you. If you want to get really nerdy and do a flight of vodka, you can do all 8 flavors with a couple of flights and have a great time out there as well. Take your friends, take your family, maybe after the cold weather passes and you can get back out there and just have a good time. It is exactly that. Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. Maybe today it's seeing if Specs can get you some Deep Eddy Vodka delivered to the house. They're on Highway 290 there in Dripping Springs for the Deep Eddy Vodka tasting room. So again, thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting your notifications for Orange Bloods Live. New schedule fires up today. That means 2 o'clock this afternoon. It's football with friends. We hear Alex is ready to roll. Let's pray for his Wi-Fi right now. And then at 4 o'clock, Ketch and I'll jump back in with the first recruiting show, the latest on Kendrick Blackshire visiting this weekend. Who else was visiting that you need to know about? What about the defensive tackle position? We'll talk about that. And the one and only Jason Sukamel will jump in with us at 4:20 to give us the latest on what he's hearing. Plus, there were a couple key names that were in College Station this past weekend that could be impactful from the Texas perspective. So we'll get all that dealt with in the 4 o'clock hour as well. So until then, and until noon tomorrow for a Tuesday House Divided. Take care of yourselves. Stay warm. Stay safe. Thanks to Blake, the super producer, for all his great work as well. And hey, we'll talk to you tomorrow. We are House